ladies and gentlemen, and Excelsior. Welcome to the Marvel Retrospective. I am the big guy, Travis Snell.
I
Here to help you
am
out.
the red jacket, Dylan Muss. I don't know why I said that. Taylor, who are you? I mean,
Who are you? Who are you, Feige?
Wow.
You know,
Come on, you came with gold
We've
in the previous
just
episode.
been-
So
well that was all my juices.
As a
put in
quick
that
behind the
episode.
scenes, we just recorded like
Help
a
me
2-hour
out, big
thing.
guy. Taylor Field.
I'm the juiceless Taylor Field.
Oh, wow. I'm the juice filled.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a fun episode. A very bittersweet episode because after this, the Marvel Retrospective will be around, but it'll be for special occasions, for Netflix series or Marvel movies. We're going to bring it back and do reviews for Elektra, Blade. We're still going to get to X-Men one day, you know? So we're going to get to that, but as far as it being a monthly, weekly series, it's going to take a little hiatus for a while because all we were doing was leading up to Infinity War. After this, we were one last episode. We're ranking everything in the MCU, but this is the last movie.
Everything. Ranking every single thing. Every scene, all 3,000 of them, we're going to rank everything.
Best scene of the 2-hour mark? No.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be ranking a bunch of stuff. We're ranking our top 10 favorite MCU characters, Stan Lee cameos, best villains, not even best villains, we're going to rank every single villain, all 18 of them, our top 10 scenes, and then we're going to rank all the movies, and yeah, it's going to be a big homecoming.
A slobber knocker, if you will.
Yeah,
A nice
exactly.
homecoming.
Yeah, it should be a good one. But today, ladies and gentlemen, we have one more movie to review in this Infinity War retrospective, and we say that because we've all reviewed the previous ones, like Guardians 2 or Civil War, Black Panther, very recently, so there's not much of a look back as, you know, look back 2 months ago.
We'll do it at some point when there's more time.
Yeah, I think we said when there's 5 years by, I think that's a good idea to look back.
Pick it up.
Like we said, Avengers 6, whenever that happens, we'll be in there. As you can see, much different type of cast, very quick, so we're going to get a bit more in-depth in this one. But I do feel, and I will start that I feel similar about it, but I will say I think in that review, because I listened to it a long time ago, so I have to listen to it again, but I was a bit more down on this movie. I thought it was just kind of maybe a basic bitch superhero movie. This is not to the same extent as Winter Soldier, where I think Winter Soldier is a top 10 comic movie, but this movie, every time I watch it, I like it more and more. I find more to enjoy out of it. I like Paul Rudd a lot more because I remember when he's first cast, and I think Civil War helped me with that. I still felt like I was watching Paul Rudd instead of Ant-Man, and now that I've had more time to sit with the character, I think it helps in crossovers because he's with a bunch of people. I don't feel like that's Paul Rudd, but originally that was a tough thing for me, and I wasn't sure about. I really wanted to see the original Hank Pym story, so I was a little disappointed about that. And then for the actual movie stuff that has stayed true is the score for me is super generic, one of the most generic scores I think Marvel's ever done. And then the villain we'll get into, I think, is very lame and had potential to be good, but they really just dropped the ball with them. But the movie itself, I don't think I was... The Marvel movies are comedic. I don't think I was expecting a comedy. And I feel like Ant-Man is very much a comedy where it feels... I feel it's the most comedic movie. It isn't just the pacing of it, just stuff like the Baskin-Robbins scene and whatnot. Like, it feels so down to earth and so small, which was good after Avengers 2, that I don't think I was prepared for it at the time. And now, like, with Ant-Man and the Wasp, with rumors being like it's a romantic comedy and whatnot, like, I'm prepared for that now. And now when I watch this, it has action moments and comic movie moments, but it does feel a lot like a superhero comedy, where I feel like the other ones are superhero movies with a lot of comedy in them. So I have ended up liking this movie a lot more from the day I saw it, so I'm excited to talk about it in detail. And that shows that, you know, over time some things can change. And Ant-Man's one of them, where before it's like, oh yeah, Ant-Man, you don't need to watch, it's fine. Where now I'm like, I generally like Ant-Man a lot. I like it a lot more than like Avengers 2, and I didn't think that at the time, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I have to completely agree with you in terms of the soundtrack and the villain. Those are two things that, as I've seen this movie, 4 or 5 times now over the years, those things have never really gotten any better. They kind of just stay at the low quality they're at. But yeah, honestly, when I was watching this again today, I thought there was going to be more comedy in it than there was actually.
Oh, wow.
So that's something I kind of surprised me. I think if you compare it to your Guardians, more Guardians 1 than 2, but still both of them, and then also Thor Ragnarok, like those movies have a lot more comedy like the entire time. Whereas this movie feels like there's scenes where it slows down. And I think the difference is that Paul Rudd is very charismatic, and traditionally he is in comedic roles. So like some scenes that maybe aren't necessarily so comedic because he's there. It kind of, adds like a lightheartedness to it. So I'd say I think that kind of would describe it more is that it's kind of lighthearted or simple as opposed to being necessarily comedic. And I think about it now differently because, this is the retrospective, and this movie follows up Avengers 2, and Ant-Man 2 is going to be following up Infinity War. So I think the way they're using it is kind of like as like a palette reset. Like, okay, you just got like, a shit ton of characters, big story points, huge things for the universe. Now we're just going to, take it back to something simple, something a bit different. You look at Ant-Man as a character, one thing that really sets him apart from all of the other Avengers is that he has a kid. None of them have a kid, and might seem like it's...
He's got 2 kids.
I kind of forgot about Hawkeye. Fucking Hawkeye, my point was so good! Go home!
I think Tony Stark probably has some kids out there that he does not
He's
know.
probably got about
That Iron
17.
Man 3 kid kind of counts. Too.
Yeah, he has one for every movie, so... What is he up to? 17, 18 now?
Whoa.
Yeah, that's a lot. But, yeah, I forgot about Hawkeye, but anyway,
Everyone does.
my point is almost true. And I don't know, that's
We didn't
definitely an
get to
aspect of the movie that's kind of heightened because Hawkeye does have kids, but I don't think they say anything. They're
Well,
just
yeah,
like
we don't
there.
get that big perspective because as we talked about in our previous episode, the Hawkeye stuff is very light and very just, hey, it's in this corner. But this is a full movie. That's a motivating
like
thing
you
for
mentioned, like the kind of down to earth or more relatable vibe. Like obviously he's like an issue for him is like child support and like having the right to his kid, and that's not something that would be an issue in like the other Marvel movies because they are
Like, will kill your ex-wife.
Yeah, just gutted down Jameson's wife in the streets. Showing us the Spider-Man retrospective.
Oh my
god. And a couple other, I guess like the romance as well. Like it's kind of there is aspects of it in the other Marvel movies, and I think in this movie in particular, it does kind of feel on par with how much romance is in your Thors or Avengers 2 as we were just talking about. And I think in the second movie, obviously there's going to be a lot more of that, and that'll be kind of a focus of the movie. But in this movie, it never really feels like it's kind of just tacked on there for the sake of having a love story. It fits well. I think there's like a development to it, and for those characters kind of becoming closer as the movie progresses. In terms of action, I think there's a lot of really fun like set pieces. Obviously, it's quite a bit different since you can toy with like relative size of things, and that actually adds more to some really interesting action scenes, things you can do. And I guess I wasn't really feeling left down at the lack of Hank Pym stuff since I don't know the comic perspective, so I don't really know his importance. They kind of stress it in like the opening of this movie when he's in that meeting with Stark and Carter and the other guy that I can't remember the name of. And obviously his technology.
The Hydra guy.
The Hydra guy, yeah. I had one more thing to bring up. Oh yeah, like he has kind of like his little squad of dudes, and they don't really have much development. They're pretty one note, but if you compare them to like the Three's Company in the first 2 Thor movies, or even jumping over to DC, compare them like whatever Wonder Woman's squad of people are. Like I think these guys, while they're just as simple as those characters, it's a lot more well done in this movie, and it fits. And I don't feel like they're just tacked on there for the sake of like plot reasons. Like even though the one guy who's like the driver has virtually no depth whatsoever, he's still like a fine addition to the movie, and it works as like a little squad. So yeah, this is a movie that I liked it the first time I saw it, and I mean maybe I'm biting my tongue. I gotta listen to our review again and really remember exactly what I felt. But I've always been a big Paul Rudd fan. If you listen to our actual like weekly newscasts and stuff, anytime talking about Paul Rudd, I'll usually spend a couple minutes just idolizing him. He's an awesome guy. So I no matter what, I would still like had a fun time with this movie on the first watch because of him. And I think this movie has probably gotten better for me every time I've watched it. I think it's not that in the retrospective sense, in that like his impact in this movie is heightened by things we see in other movies. Obviously, it's cool. I think his addition in Civil War was perfect, and they used him exactly as much as they should have, and they did. And I'm curious how I'm really looking forward to the second movie now. We have a couple trailers out at the time of recording this, and it looks fun. It looks similar to this movie, and it's maybe not taking itself too seriously. It's more simple, down to earth, and I think that worked to the benefit of this movie. So I'm excited to talk about this one. It'll be fun to, you know, delve into this one a little bit more than we did the first time we reviewed it.
I remember you guys briefly getting into it back in the day, and
Briefly
getting back into it.
14 minutes
14
worth of
minutes
into it.
worth. And yeah, it seemed very interesting. It was the Marvel movie that I never got to see in theaters, actually.
You say that like you were locked up or deprived or
Yeah,
something,
like
but
you were
really,
in prison.
it seemed like me and Travis Sullivan was interested in going to see it.
I really wanted to see it in theaters,
Oh, yeah.
but at the same time, like, I just didn't have the urgency to go.
Okay. So you didn't really want to see it?
Well, I did,
That's-
but
No, you didn't.
I didn't know how.
You
it
had
was,
like 3 months to go. I don't know how long we can go in theaters for.
that being said, like, I didn't even see it right away afterwards until eventually it dropped on Netflix. And
Big N.
yes, finally, you know, I thought, you know, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna watch it. It's free. There's no more better opportunity. I watched it and I was like blown away. I'm like, Taylor, how did you not see this in theaters? What were you doing with your life? Obviously, nothing important. So,
Right.
I think.
Did you not? I'm not gonna go down that route.
Tell me after.
Yeah, I will.
So I
don't want to make any ex-girlfriends
Oh,
mad or
right.
anything like that.
I think I think you know, it's a movie I'm glad I saw on Netflix because Netflix needed the attention. But
What?
What is
Wait,
the
what?
point of this review?
I'm glad I saw it on Netflix because Netflix. What does that even mean? Like, I actually have no idea what that means.
they're in debt and they're gonna be competing hard with Disney streaming apps. So I think.
But you already had Netflix. You were
Yeah.
already subscribed. You were already probably going to say subscribe. Did this movie change that for you? Were you like on the cusp of unsubscribing and then you said, okay, I'm going to watch Ant-Man and this is the deciding factor of whether or not I subscribe or not? Because whether or not you bought Ant-Man or not, like, they still made the same amount of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess so.
I'm sorry. Just go off on you there. Just, anyway. Go on.
You make a very good point. I don't know where I was going with that. But on that note, you know, it was definitely worth my time to watch it
Right.
on Netflix, considering it was free, and it was a very good experience. I love the story. I love Paul Rudd. Everything just stacks
Paul
so well with each other that I thought, you know, this is a movie that needed to be introduced. And you know, Ant-Man, I didn't know anything about the comics, the character, anything like that. I felt like I got to know a whole lot after watching the movie, and after watching Civil War, his character development leading up to what he is now was absolutely fantastic. Watching Civil War again a few days ago, like it was so fitting seeing his personality pairing up with Captain America. Like when he hands him the shield, he's like, "I believe this is yours, Captain America." Like he just seems like that best friend bodyguard. And even in the movie, like he's just
The
so.
scene with Falcon, too, when he...
The scene with Falcon, exactly. Like he's
Big
just,
fan. I'm Ant-Man. You probably heard me. Wait, no, you haven't.
I definitely am glad they chose Sam Wilson to pop into the Ant-Man kind of storyline. You know, it worked much better than Captain America, Scarlet Witch, Black Widow. I feel like all those characters wouldn't have worked very well.
Yeah, I agree.
Sam Wilson just fits so perfectly with it, and yeah, they had even the two of them had good chemistry. I think the whole scene realization of him going to Avengers Tower was absolutely hilarious, and he robs the Avengers. I don't know. I think the movie just had so much potential that it capitalized on that potential and skyrocketed upwards.
Capitalized on it.
Capitalized. Caps lock on.
Wow.
Caps lock on.
Well, and I will say that I think Taylor brings up a good point because I remember when me and Dylan did see it, and yeah, we were the only ones that did, and even Kyle.
We're the only ones in the theater.
Yeah.
It was empty.
But I
And
remember-
people at the concession were like, "Why are you buying tickets to this piece of shit?"
I remember Kyle and Liam, same thing. They didn't want to see it, and they're big comic book fans. And the thing was, it was this thing of, one, I think Avengers 2 was better. I think people would be a bit more hyped, but it was a thing of, it's just Ant-Man, you know? And it's just like, what is this thing? And there was a lot of people that didn't see it in the theater that I knew, but the same thing, Kyle and Liam is both those examples that, and Taylor obviously is a third, and other people I talked to that are the 4th and 6th and 7th, 8th and 9th and 10th. All my friends. No, but people that saw it later on did come back and say, I really enjoyed it. And I've heard many people say the same thing as myself or Dylan, that like I enjoy it more on a rewatch. It's something about it where I think it is kind of a kooky movie, and I think it is kind of weird. And I think there's some stuff that is to its detriment. I think the villain we'll talk about gets a little kooky, and it gets a little That's where I feel like he feels like a comedy villain at times, and not good, not a good thing. And I'm a big fan of Corey Stoll. If you've watched the first season of House of Cards, you know what that guy can do. He's a phenomenal actor, and I was so excited when they got him there. And that what makes me really nervous for Walton Goggins, who's gonna be Ant-Man the Wasp, who's the Tomb Raider villain. I feel like he's gonna be the same sort of deal, where very comedic and whatnot. So hopefully they change.
You ruined my night.
So hopefully they change that up.
Fake wigs.
Hopefully.
I would rather die than save a million.
Yeah.
I love Dylan still has this distorted quote of what it actually is. I would rather see that one life died in a million, but your Dylan's work so well. But so I think that's something that a lot of people, and I think it's the Marvel's lowest opening as well. So there was a general theme of, hey, this is just Ant-Man, whatever. But I feel like it ended up doing well, and I feel like Civil War, you had Black Panther, you had Spider-Man, but Ant-Man was in that conversation too. People that stole that movie is from a comedic standpoint, because man, he was great in there. So, and I think this is a good foundation, and it's also good because it is a good origin story, and at this time, we hadn't had many origin stories again. Like, Guardians is an origin story to an extent. It's not your classic type of setup as an origin story. Like, you obviously start with Quill as a kid, but like you do that. And
that's very brief. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you meet all these people. Like you had Winter Soldier, you had Iron Man 3, you had Thor: Dark World, and then you had Avengers 2. Like we weren't getting much origins going on. Yeah, which I think that was another thing that makes us fresh, was meeting someone new and not meeting them the Falcon way or the Black Widow way, where they're hamstrung in. Which I think that with this character it worked. And yeah, for me it wasn't that the Hank Pym stuff that ended up being bad. It's just my initial getting into this movie as a comic fan, like that's the guy that made Ultron, and he's the first Ant-Man. He is legitimately an original member of the Avengers. And it just, at that time I felt like now that he's old, like he doesn't get to be on these adventures. And I think as I've watched the movie again, I've seen that he gets to be on these adventures in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think with his wife being back, obviously he's gonna have a big crux in there. And I guess if we're just starting to talk about the movie now, I think the thing that I'll start with is the three leads, and I think they all have great chemistry. I think, obviously, you have Janet and Hank who have this broken father-daughter relationship they're trying to repair, and they're starting to repair it, but at the beginning of the movie, lots of tension, and they hit that home really hard, and then you have this kind of jealous, kind of tension-filled relationship between Scott and Janet, where she's helping him because she wants this mission to be successful. You can tell she's kind of gritting her teeth the whole time as it's happening, and obviously we see them grow to get closer, and she realizes he has a daughter, and then you have this mentor relationship with Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas. I don't know why I didn't call them the character names, but like Hank and Scott, and this like trying to hand down a legacy, but at the same time Scott has this great line about like, hey, I'm expendable, and I know that, and he knows that. So it's just like, yeah, it's this mentor thing, but really Scott's just kind of a job. He's more of a means to end. And then again, at the end, with all these relationships, they all change. They start differently and they end differently, and that's what's great. And they set up the sequel well, and I'm not trying to make this talk about the sequel, but they set up perfectly. I can't wait to see where these characters go and how they change. And the chemistry between all three actors and all the different ways they have to play against each other is fantastic. So I'm a big fan of the training sequence once they really start. You see those three together. That's probably one of the best parts of the movie, if not the best part. So because they all have to bounce off each other, and it's phenomenal. So
yeah, that's certainly the best part of this movie. Let's just hop right into the villain first, hey?
Oh boy.
Because that's one thing, that when that section of the movie is happening, the training sequence, he is completely gone. They just kind of forget about him for
he's doing evil stuff somewhere.
Half an hour, 40 minutes, or something like that. Yeah, it's a weird villain for me. He's like not really that intimidating at any point. He is like super serious, but then he isn't. He wants to see the world end, or he's like I guess I'm kind of confused by him.
He doesn't want to see the world end. He just wants, I guess, to make a lot of money at the same time. He wants to change the world, but then he's just completely like, I'm going to sell my shit to Hydra because they're doing great things now. I think my problem with the villain is, so he has this opening speech with about the technology, right? And I think that is really good, where he brings Hank Pym in and he's showing him, he just starts with that thing where he walks over and he shows that it says cross technologies, and it's just like a little thing and then he has this great speech about hey, you always there's a legend about the Ant-Man. Like, he knows, but like he's very condescending and he's very cocky and confident. And I think that's really good. And even the guy interrupts him, like, oh, we'll talk about that later, Jim. Like, he's almost like a Lex Luthor type, like very calm businessman.
Okay.
I think the second he loses it is that bathroom scene where he just kills the guy and he squashes him. And he's just like, oh, we're working out the bugs, and he's like, he gets really not even comic booky. That's where I feel like he gets like a comedy villain. Like, he gets very over the top, and then sometimes he'll slip into trying being scary, but I'm never scared of him again. Like in that scene where he is in Hank Pym's house and he's trying to intimidate him, I don't feel scary because all the other stuff, and he's just kind of, he acts sporadic. And the last thing I'll say before I throw it to you guys, at the end of this movie, she throws in this line like, oh, the particles, they're messing with your brain, but she says it like the very end of the movie. So at the beginning I'd be like, okay, maybe he's kind of crazy pants because his mind's kind of being warped, but I never got that sense. I just kind of got the sense that, yeah, he's a smart guy, but he's kind of fucked up and weird, and we don't get into him, really. We don't. There's one great scene, I'm sorry, I thought I was done. There's one great scene with him and Hank when he's like, why did you try to teach me? And he's like, well, I saw myself in you. And he's like, why'd you stop? He's like, I saw too much of me. That's great, and I want more of that. I want more of the relationship, but then it just gets into like, oh, I'm better than you. It's like, oh, okay, there's nothing there, so.
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it. Like, the aspect that I liked about it at first is the exact same thing as you, where it's like, you know, he sees Hank Pym as like a father figure, or I guess more as a mentor, but there's aspects of that as well.
And he wants to eclipse him in a sense, you know.
Yeah, and that's all fine and dandy, but then he just becomes way too evil out of nowhere, right?
To kill a guy in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I did not get that sense of, I thought he was just kind of still a normal guy, you know, but just like cold blood, just kill this guy. It's like, well, there's not much when we talk about villains of like, you need a really big, like, some reason, like, previous episode we talked about Tony Stark, like, we need a reason to buy why he's doing this. Why is he killing this guy? Why does he have to murder him?
That, like,
the guy just says he's not
I
going to
couldn't
buy
even
his
see
shit.
that scene. Like, I mean, obviously we'd kind of warp a lot of the movie, but obviously they do like some tests on some like goats or sheep or something like that. Like, maybe after that, when that was like successful, maybe he'd want to test it on a person, and at that point maybe he's gone a little bit more crazy and he decides to test it on some guy. Like, it could make more sense there, but it still feels unjustified. And
because the guy just doesn't want to buy his stuff. Like, that's it. Like, I'm pretty sure that's it. Like,
I think it was because that guy had like a concern with him, like, wanting to sell it, not just to him, but just like in general, because of its, you know, if it gets into the wrong hands, Hydra, for example, like, you know, the shit it can cause to the world. Because, like, that's what I actually find confusing as well. Like, that presentation he has at the start just seems super weird. Like, he seems like he's accepting how much, like, this could just change the world, or how much of a negative impact this could have on, like, humanity in general. And that's, like, part of his presentation when he's trying to sell it, as opposed to, like, here's this really cool technology and it's gonna save a bunch of lives.
That
and
video's
you can use
fucking weird too.
It goes way
who
too
would
far.
buy that?
I know.
Yeah, like,
It's like very suspect. It's like if that was a room full of, you know, Shield, or not Shield, maybe Shield Hydra.
Yeah.
But yeah, just filled with like a bunch of bad guys. You know, maybe like Zemo's chilling there. I mean, he doesn't really fit, but I don't know. Like, it just
Red Skull.
the whole presentation
Alex
just
Pierce
doesn't
would love
fit at all.
this presentation.
Alex Pierce.
Yeah.
Who's Alex Pierce?
Alexander Pierce. Remember from Winter Soldier, the older guy.
Right.
Yeah. He would love this. That's my thing. Where the video's like, in a new world, in a better world, and then they're just showing them like literally taking out cars and robbing shit, and it's like,
Yeah.
who makes, like, what is this?
It's like,
video?
we can stop bad drivers. It's just like an explosion on a bridge.
And that's where I feel like this movie sometimes, again, feels like a comedy, because it's that's really over the top, and I don't know, am I supposed to take that seriously? Because if so, that doesn't
right.
mesh.
It never really feels like he's meant to be like a comedy aspect of this movie. Yeah.
Taylor, tell me why you loved this villain.
I mean, I didn't love him.
Okay.
Didn't say that much.
Just usually that's what happens when we railroad a person. You're like, I love Quicksilver.
I do like
Baby.
Quicksilver. But, this dude, I mean, don't get me wrong, when he's all suited up, he was badass. He's easily
Is that because the suit, though, or him? Because the suit looks cool, but I don't think he had anything to do with that.
It's definitely the suit.
Other than the weird line when the little girl goes, I want my daddy, and then he literally says, I want your daddy, too. What the fuck?
That's like a Taylor.
I want your daddy, too.
Yeah, that's
we
what
gotta see
Cross
Taylor
that line.
recreate that in the...
Yeah, I want your daddy, too.
So we'll reenact that scene then?
I want to see it.
Maybe.
Maybe.
No, I think it's definitely the suit that made him a badass. I think it's a super cool suit. I mean, I love the Ant-Man suit. I'd love to cosplay as that, but that Hornet suit is super cool.
It's a yellow jacket.
Thank you.
Hornet is the
Hornet.
villain of the third
Yeah.
Ant-Man movie.
Hornet Man.
I don't know. He does scare me. You know, I would not want to be in a room with him because he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs most of the time, and he's just so unpredictable. And you know, like half the time he's like melting dudes, and the other time, as you said, he's looking for your daddy. So I mean, he's very.
Put that on your Tinder profile. People.
Yeah, he feels.
Melting dudes looking for your
Oh,
daddy.
man.
Dylan's reaction is just pure like embarrassment and just like, oh, these are the people I've chosen to cast for the best three.
Well, this is what happens when we've been casting for like 3 hours, you know?
Yeah.
It just gets a little off the rails. He feels like a villain who's like kind of half fleshed out, and that's never what you want. Especially when he has like, he actually has like quite a bit of screen time in this movie. Like, Yellow Jacket doesn't really, like when he's in the suit, it's kind of just the final battle, but he has a lot of scenes and like,
scenes with Janet, scenes
Yeah.
with Alone, scenes with
okay,
Hank.
I feel like you said Janet a few times. Her name's definitely not Janet.
Is it not?
It's certainly not Janet. It
Confirmed.
can't be Janet. Her name is Hope, I think.
Oh, is it? Maybe I'm thinking Hang On, though.
Because Janet's not the actress's name either.
It might actually be Hope.
I
You
think...
said Janet a couple times. It's one of those things where, you know, I just assumed I knew what you were talking about.
Janet Van Dyne.
Janet Van Dyne is a real character.
Is that the name of Wasp? Like the OG Wasp?
Yeah, that's why I'm fucking it up. See, it's Hank Pym. Yeah, it's because you're right.
You
Hope,
feel
yeah.
like the
So.
comic book nerd. Her name's
Well, I'm
Hope.
so used to Hank and Janet, so my
The thing is, I couldn't really remember
And
what her
Michelle
name was
Pfeiffer's
either, so-
always on the mind, so she's playing Janet, right? So
Oh,
No, yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
White gold.
I don't know, what was I on about? Anyway, you see scenes with him and Hope, and that's like, that could be a really interesting dynamic, but it kind of,
Yeah, because they...
I don't know, it kind of just like switches at one point from
Good.
them being... Honestly, actually, now that I think about it, there's not really any depth from his side of it. I think from her
No.
side, it's awesome because she's playing like the double agent, and
I want
but
to know
they
how
honestly
much...
don't even push into that. a
Yeah,
whole lot.
I don't know
They
how
never-
much, like, is it just friendly? Because that dinner they looked like, kind of looked like it was almost in a romantic
It looked
setting.
like he was interested in her, but
Yeah.
then he never really shows that again throughout the movie.
No, and then the whole time he apparently knew, right? Because like, I knew you were meeting with your dad, so it's like, so is he also playing her? But it's like, him playing her didn't lead to anything, because it's like, they still one-up him,
Yeah.
so like, yeah, there's a lot of threads they didn't really continue to sew. They're just like, yeah, they can stay loose, and that's cool.
And yeah, like we mentioned, like there's a lot of potential with the connection between him and Hank Pym, and some of it's good, but some of it kind of just slips by unnoticed, I think. And then, you know, with Steve, what's his name? Lang? Steve Lang? Is it Steve?
Scott.
Scott.
It's Scott.
Scott.
It's not
Scott.
Janet. It's not
It's
Janet.
Scott Summers. Yeah, with Scott, like he also they don't really have any connection. They fight at the end, but they don't have like any moments as, you know, themselves as opposed to being in their super suits fighting. So yeah, I mean, like there is a few opportunities for him to be like a fleshed out character because there's different settings that he's in, talking with different characters.
Yeah.
But
Just doesn't happen.
it never really gets there. It kind of goes, you know, half the distance, if that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see. I got him ranked pretty low when I made my rankings. I was like, wow, he's down there.
He's like Malekith's zone.
Maybe I'll have to tune in
Malekith's
next
in the
week.
Shadow Realm. He's completely vanquished from any chance of. He's last. Sorry to
He's
spoil
number
that.
one, baby. Anything else? Obviously, we're going to talk about Cross Game. Anything pressing to talk about Cross? No. Yellow Jacket. Yeah, a character that I don't think I need to come back. We last episode talked about, man, maybe one day we get that Avengers versus Masters of Evil, like a team up of bad guys. I don't need Yellow Jacket. He can stay home for that one.
He can stay dead.
Yeah. Is he dead? I don't know. He poofed, but like
He
that
poofed.
could be anywhere.
Yeah, it's potentially ambiguous.
He's gonna be a stone.
In my world, he's dead.
Yeah, and he can stay that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about Ant-Man and Paul Rudd because in Scott Lang because we haven't yet, but it's one of those things because this movie is so close and so fresh. Where I know we've talked about in Civil War, we talked about with Infinity War coming up, but I like his start of it's similar to Spider-Man where it's Dylan already brought it with
like the child aspect, but the other aspect is him starting in prison, and it's that fun scene of okay, he's getting the goodbye with the punches and everything like that. But it's like a convict and a down on his luck convict. Yeah, Captain America apparently can't afford a place in Brooklyn, but this guy is really down on his luck. He's living in a place with 4 guys, and that's a bad thing because I know Dylan Russell, but like it looks like they're living together just because they have no other choice because they're convicts.
Yeah.
They have to stick together, and they don't have jobs, so like they couldn't afford
Yeah.
anything else. Like they all kind of feel stuck, you know, and that's why it does feel like Scott is looking for something. Obviously, Baskin Robbins does not help out. He goes on this heist because he sees that he wants to support his daughter, and he's not getting anything else as far as job. So of course he falls back into his own life, and I think they do good motivation. It feels like the whole time that character wants to change. And that's why it's comedic, but I love when he's just like, I'm done with breaking in and stealing shit. Like, well, do whatever you want me to do. And he's just like, I want you to break into a place and steal some shit. He's like,
Yeah.
oh God. Like,
Delivers the line really well.
yeah, but I feel like both of them do so good. But I feel that the whole time you do feel like he not even wants something bigger like in a Tony Stark way, just wants something more for his life, and he does want to change. Where sometimes movies have that storyline, but you just feel like it's just on a piece of paper,
Yeah.
right? That's where Paul Rudd is good because he is very much like an underrated dramatic actor. I don't think he's going to go and win any Academy Awards, but he can bring it. And I think he does bring in the movie in these like sullen moments where he's alone or he's thinking about his daughter. So
What I like about him and his squad of criminals is that obviously him and at least the one other guy spent some time in prison, but they're bad guys and they're criminals and they went to jail for it, but they're not like
he did like
they're not that
Dexter
bad,
crime,
he's just a burglar. It's not like he's been going around like murdering people.
And it was burgling bad people. Remember, people that had been stealing money from other people.
Right.
It was just like a Robin Hood sort of.
Yeah, it's like exactly. So I like that aspect of it because I don't know, it really gives him like an aspect where he's still like just a kind of regular dude trying to do his best or trying to help out the people of the world or the people around him, or his daughter's obviously his biggest motivation. And yeah, I like that aspect. I think there's a part of this movie at the beginning when he doesn't want to go back into that crime life and he's trying, and I like the Baskin Robbins thing. Baskin Robbins always finds
so
out.
Good. And the creepy little like manager guy just like, guess what? Like, I'll let you have one of those strawberries.
Take a peach soda on the way out.
Yeah. On the house, and he's just like, oh man, like because we've all had that boss, like.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that aspect of the movie could have been kind of boring or tedious. Like, oh well, he's gonna end up doing the crime, so why are we wasting this time with him? Like, no, I don't want to do it. But I don't think it takes that long. I think it's fun. And his main homie there, I can't remember that actor's name.
Michael Pena.
Michael Pena.
Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him in a couple things, and I like him. He's a funny guy. And I think he plays really well off of Paul Rudd.
Mm.
And then his one other homie, the dude with the glasses. What have I seen that guy in? I've seen him in a couple things.
He's a character actor a lot. You wouldn't remember him that, but he's in the Dark Knight. He's in the Flash. He's been in like tons of stuff. He's like all over the
Just
map.
here and there.
Yeah.
I think he's another funny character as well, and yeah, I like the dynamic between.
And they have their other buddy too.
Yeah, he's kind of like
He's just there.
he's kind of left behind. He's just the driver.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have. I don't have anything to mention about him really, but
One of my favorite scenes with just those 3 characters, it was when they're driving at the end of the movie to Scott's house, and they're like, we gotta stop him, we gotta do anything to help Scott, and then the cop's there, and he's like, okay, stop, back it up slowly,
back it up,
back it up,
back it up.
yeah,
Back it
back, slowly, back it up. Good, and they leave that for like 25 seconds.
Yeah,
Like, back it up.
it definitely drags on.
Fantastic.
Taylor, I reckon you're a fan of this squad of boys, Big Chillin'.
I'm a fan of
Don't
squads.
say it like that. Boys?
No, just squads.
Suicide.
Squad. Yeah. Better than Avengers 2.
I think.
And probably better than this movie.
I think the whole squad aspect and just like the Michael's I don't know the character's name.
Lewis,
right? Yes.
The character.
The character's name.
Ooh, big actor playing a character. Fuck you, buddy.
So cool.
I think Lewis, when he's always trying to like decipher and be like, yeah, I heard it from this guy, I heard it from his ex-girlfriend, I heard it from his wife.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
love
I'm
those
talking
two
to you
scenes.
sometimes, Taylor Field, when you're telling a story.
I'm not like that though.
No, but just when you talk about stuff, I really have to think about what you're
Sorry, I
saying.
get excited.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Really?
Sometimes, yeah.
Do you?
Well, I've been there.
Wow. I guess I have that effect on people. Yeah, so I think
You could have definitely
You're
threw
supposed to drink the water, you know.
in breaks. Yeah.
oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
No,
You
I-
fucking alien! Where'd you come from?
Oh,
Feige, where'd you come from?
oh, okay.
I think like Lewis's scenes is great. I love the whole scene of him, you know, heisting up the Pym lab or whatever you can call it. That was pretty cool. And didn't he have a fight scene too in there?
He had like a
He
punch.
punches some dude.
Yeah, that was
He had a
pretty
punch
solid. That was pretty impressive. So, I think he was definitely a cool partner. As you said, he bounced off Paul Rudd fantastically.
Bounce.
I was super excited to see him in that brief little glimpse in the trailer for Ant-Man and Wasp. It was very cool. So, yeah, him and the Goon Squad. I'm down for
The
it.
Goon Squad.
That's fucking disrespectful.
What do you mean?
Just because they're ex-cons doesn't mean they're goons. Like, they're saving the world right now.
Yeah.
But you're still gonna call them goons.
Just roll off the tongue.
Okay.
I
Where were we gonna go?
I was just gonna mention, you know, the scene when they break into Hank Pym's house. I obviously have to, you know, kind of, or I guess Paul Rudd's character has to kind of think on his feet and figure out some solutions to get past those two locked doors. And I really like that because it shows that he's a really smart guy and he can think under pressure and you know, just kind of use his surroundings to his advantage and use like the tools at his disposal. And he kind of shows that later in you know, his fights with I guess with Yellow Jacket, because it's kind of all about their surroundings, right? And that's what impacts like the battlefield, how he's going to win a fight. So I think that's kind of shown that he has that aspect of his personality and that he can you know, figure things out on the fly. And yeah, I think that was a lot of fun, you know, watching him like do all that chemistry shit to reenact that fingerprint, and then you know, using like the nitrogen gas freezing thing, whatever it is, to, you know, burst open that vault. And yeah, I love that the initial scene when he puts on, he's like in the bathroom in the bathtub with the suit on, and he's just like fucking around with the buttons, and then eventually he clicks them both at the same time. And yeah, like that's a really fun scene, you know, getting him like the first time in the suit, kind of walking around and, you know, falling through the floor into like that party, and he's like on the record, like holding on to the grooves, and it like bounces off him and like does like a drop, and then everyone in the party just starts like jamming out to that, and he gets like pumped into the vacuum. Like there's a lot that happens in that scene, and it's obviously it's kind of like introduction to that's what you can expect from this movie or this character in the MCU, is, you know, getting to see some scenes that you'll never really get to see from other characters. It's pretty unique, and visually it's really fun, and it never feels awkward. It's something that could really easily not look
I think
good.
that's just purely like a lame thing of like, it does just show how far we have come as far as technology, because I do think this is a movie you make 10 years ago. There's a chance
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, you know?
yeah, there's a chance it comes off really cheesy and really lame, but yeah, it just feels flawless. Even the fight scenes, everything like that. Like, they can be fighting as normal size in the pool, and then they can go fight on the Thomas Train set, and then, which is a great scene, and it feels like it's huge and a huge scope, but really it's just like this little train track that's in a room. And yeah, you mentioned that at the opening, but that's the thing that I'm excited for. Just anytime in the future, just to see more scenarios of when he is in the size. And that's why I still do worry with Giant Man if they played that card
A bit too early for me. I think they could have held on to that, because I still am interested to see what they can do with that, but I think there's still more to explore with the small world, so we'll see. But in this movie, I think it was a good step to have all that stuff back and forth, because he's tiny and it's the first time it's happened, so he has no idea where he's going. He's just falling, and yeah, it's all...
And then there's like that voice in his helmet too. It's very confusing.
Yeah, it's all cinematically like really cool. Even when he gets into the ants and just seeing him run with all the ants, like it just fits and it works. And yeah, it never feels awkward. And they're all good. Even like my favorite scene, I think, as far as an action set piece, is them in the briefcase, because it's so cool. Like the phone's playing, and then like they're just shooting things, and there's like he'll shoot like a lightsaber, and like very fun. So yeah.
Do you think it's weird how Hank Pym's whole plan to get Ant-Man to rob from him essentially was based on him telling the cousin who tells the...
It's a little
niece
far-fetched.
who tells the, like, that's very far-fetched.
We also do live in a world where a man is a giant green monster, so you gotta sometimes just check your...
Yeah, but I mean, I could believe that more than this.
I can't. I haven't seen a green monster, but I've...
Where I'll agree with you is because there's clearly like a time... This is like a time-sensitive issue. You know, them stopping the Yellow Jacket before he really gets sold and put into the hands of Hydra. So obviously, this factor in like how much time they have to train. I don't know how long that montage is, like a few days or something like that. Maybe
Hours.
just honestly, it could be like I can't really tell for sure. So that's where you're right. Like, if he, let's say that didn't work by sharing that thing with the cousin with the whatever, he obviously would have another way to like get access to Scott, but like really he probably should be doing it in like a more direct way.
I think Hank Pym would have just went in there with a gun and just helped him up. Like, give me that fucking suit! And then he gets shot and it's really sad.
But he needed him to do the job for him.
But, no, I'm saying if he didn't get, like, that didn't happen, he's just gonna go with the gun and shoot the place up.
Ah, yes, and just shoot the Yellow Jacket suit and blow up the whole place himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he does have a tank on a keychain at any point that he could use if he wanted to.
Yep.
So
Let's talk about Hank Pym.
Mr. Hank,
Michael Douglas, one of the greatest actors of all time. I'm a huge fan of.
probably the greatest actor of all time.
Yeah, maybe. Like, there's lots of people I always say that about and give them a lot of respect because they've
He's
earned
number
that.
one on Travis's man
he's
crush
not,
list.
No, he's not. He 90s, like,
When he's in his 90s.
mid 80s, like, not age, but when he was in the 80s, yeah, Michael Douglas was a fine looking guy. And one, I'll shout that out. I think that, other than Blade Runner, and I won't say what the scene is, if you've seen the movie, you know. Other than Blade Runner, I think this is the best, like, de-aging technology they've ever done. Because Michael Douglas, in that first scene in the movie, does not look like he's CGI. He legitimately looks like, and the thing, like, as somebody that's watched a lot of his work, he looks exactly like he looked in the 80s. It's fucking nuts, and I want them to make that movie. Talking about prequels, we talked about last episode, I'd love them to do that again, because who knows where we're going to go with this Ant-Man stuff, and Ant-Man in the 60s Cold War could be fun. But Michael Douglas is phenomenal. He's a guy that he has such screen presence, and he's just one of these actors that when he reads a line a certain way, you could have 100 actors read that same line, and they're not going to bring the same whatever it is to him. He's one of those actors that, whether it's gravitas or power or sadness, he just has it, and he can easily switch into like being really dramatic and really serious, and then to a point of being really emotional. Like my favorite scene of him is the scene that he has with Hope and talking about his mother and how he lost her and everything like that. Because one, I'm a father now with a daughter, so that was actually quite an emotional scene for me this go around. But two, it's just he was angry in one moment, in that moment, he's sad, and then after there's some comedic break with when Scott walks in, he's like, "Oh, this is great, you guys! Like you're bonding and we're doing it." And he's like, "I ruined the moment." He's like, "Yeah, you did." Like Michael Douglas is he can just switch so easily, and it never feels like a character. We talk about as actors sometimes, like it never feels like, oh, you can tell they're trying to be comedic here. He just feels like a person, and that's just in his whole career. And he brings that to this, and that's why it's a good idea that they got someone so talented to play Hank Pym, because I hope he's a character that has a lot more role than just Ant-Man series. He talks a lot about the Starks in this, and I'd love to see him and Robert Downey like go at it, and like I hope he ends up being more of a bigger role, like even like almost like an Eric Selvig, like popping up. I don't know if that's gonna happen because it seems like he's over here, but he's great,
true.
and Hank in this movie is great. His motivations make sense. He wants to stop them from using this technology, and he also does not want Hope to do it, because I love that line of him being expendable, meaning Scott, because yeah, he cares for his daughter a lot, and that's why he's not putting her there. And obviously, then in the movie, he turns around saying, "You know what? I need to trust in my daughter, and she's a woman of her own. So if she wants to do this, she can do this." But the character changes, and he's just great. He has some good one-liners too. Like when he delivers that, like, "I need to break in some shit, break in and steal some shit."
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
he has like he might be in MCU like the best like dry humor delivery. Like it's so dry and it's so serious, but I laugh at. It's almost like Drax and him, just stuff that he says. I just laugh, So yeah, love Hank Pym in this movie. Love Michael Douglas, and I want more.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there as well. Like every character that he has to interact with is always interesting and always feels like
Different too.
It really does. It feels like he is talking to someone different, or he
Like when he
has
has to
like
talk
a
to
different like
Scott's
intention
friends.
of like what he's trying to achieve with that conversation. And,
Yeah.
and he maintains like that aspect of like he was the Ant-Man at some point, and he obviously has the power. He can control the ants, so easily at this point. Like it's nothing. He can do it like just like over the radio now or whatever, when he was controlling all of them at like the earlier parts in this movie before Scott Lang could. And yeah, his stuff with Hope is always really interesting, and that's certainly a relationship that, as you mentioned, that kind of develops over the course of this movie and changes, and that's a really fun dynamic to see, because he's kind of always, he just wants her approval, or her to really think of him as her father, and I don't know, I guess that's kind of what he's striving for the whole time, but yet he still kind of like holds back. And I think mostly it's because he's trying to protect her, and obviously that's why he doesn't put her in the suit originally. And I think, for her to suit up in the second one, I think it makes sense. I think this movie really sets up like that development, or for him to be okay with that, and not just for the sake of the second movie having another character in a suit, but like as a story point, as a character point between them, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And we already talked about how, the best moments of Cross in the Yellow Jacket are, his interactions with Hank Pym.
Yeah, and that could be because of
Yeah.
Michael Douglas. Yeah.
And I like that he's always like he's so smart. He seems like he's thinking like a few steps ahead. Like the fact that he just has that like tank on the keychain, like that's always like a nice get out of jail free card if he ever needs it. And just his whole like how confident he was with that whole plan of getting the ants to bring in the suit to Scott in jail, and then to break him out and tell him exactly where to go, and like we're just gonna hitch a ride on this cop car to get past the barrier, and he's always just thinking like a few steps ahead. And I think you completely nail it in terms of like how he delivers all these lines and the comedy, and when he needs to be serious, when he needs to be taken seriously, he can. Yeah, it's cool. I'm excited to see more of him in the second, for sure.
Yeah, most of what you guys already said. He's an awesome character. He bounces off everyone great, and I'm excited to see him in Ant-Man and Wasp. So, yeah.
Taylor's at the point of being tired.
I got hit by like drowsiness, like a punch to the face.
Well, Taylor, you know what? While you're talking, you can start by talking about Hope Van Dyne.
Hope Van Dyne. She was pretty badass for an
actress.
For an actress, yeah. I'm
Yikes.
so tired. God damn it.
You almost put your
all those
finger
years
out
on the
there.
island.
Go back to your group of boys.
My squad. Yeah, I'd say I wasn't expecting her to be the Wasp because I didn't know like any of the storyline or characters. So, but leading up to like, yeah, I know. I live and breathe that. Leading up to the end, the movie where she
That should be a t-shirt.
she gets her suit or whatever. I think that's super super cool.
Super.
I think the whole, I don't know, I thought Scott was kind of like romancing over her throughout the movie, kind of like wanting her, and she's like, no, and she really
No.
wants like,
She's like, no.
She's like,
That's
no.
the worst. When they don't, put any detail in, they're just like, nah. We don't know that. Hey, would you like to go for coffee sometime?
No,
Bye.
I wouldn't like clean.
It's just the worst.
Oh.
I love then you're clearly pretty tired over there, Taylor. I love in the training montage how it really establishes how much of a badass she is, and obviously she's like a business person, taking care of the whole PIM industries, whatever it's called. But when she's training Scott, like she can throw a punch, and she's pretty devious, and she's kind of sassy at moments too, and she's clearly like pissed that Hank chose to go with Scott as the one to do this mission instead of her, because she feels she can do a better job. And I'm super excited to see her suited up in the second one, popping off, because we've already seen like some awesome action scenes between her, or from her rather, and she's fun.
Yeah, like I don't have too much to add because I feel like I added a lot about. I think her strongest stuff is the stuff with her dad and that relationship, so it's kind of tied to Hank. I think her character is just really enjoyable. You see that transition of her trying to work with her father. Maybe there being a bridge they can build there to help out and be father and daughter again. The rest of the stuff, I think it's pretty because there's a lot of stuff going on. I think there's not a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of other characters, and the screen time isn't on her for some good portions. She has some good moments with Scott, like I said, when she is talking about, I didn't know you had a daughter when he called the cops. That's all good. The rest of the stuff...
And that's like the motivation for him when he
Yeah.
can finally control the ants, because he's connected to that inner...
Yeah, and she
calm.
realized that. Yeah, I think the training sequence is the best time for her. The rest of the stuff, I think she's just a good, fun, like you said, kind of sassy, like playful character, but serious when she needs to be, and like you feel like she's doing a lot in the business world, right? And it does feel like that, and at the end it feels like she's trying to, when she's trying to talk to Cross, like she's trying to get through to him. She's not, she doesn't feel like, maybe she is trying to deceive him, but she still feels like she's trying to make the scenario go away that wouldn't have to be violent or anything like that, so she has a clear head. For me, it's just the biggest thing. I was not a big fan of the casting when it happened initially. I've not seen Lost, and the only other thing I'd seen I could never say
Evangeline Lilly.
Evangeline Lilly is in The Hobbit, and I'm not a big fan of her in The Hobbit. And that's not necessarily.
That's not her fault, right?
No, it's not her fault because that character's pretty garbage. But it is. I can't wait to do those retros because those are quite the movies.
I feel like you don't often throw the term garbage out there. So
it's because the
like
character's annoyed the fuck out of me.
The character's garbage.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
that's what it's described. Yeah.
So I was not a big fan of it. There's other people talked about, and I thought she really surprised me. And I think she has a chance to be obviously a Shuri right now with Black Panther as a big standout. Valkyrie, a lot of people liked in Thor Ragnarok, but after Ant-Man and the Wasp, I think she has a clear shot to take that upper echelon and be the number one dog as far as top females. Obviously
Female dog.
Yeah, obviously we got. There's something else there, but obviously you have Captain.
That's not what I think. I'm so
I thought
sorry.
you was trying to trick me into calling her a bitch, and I almost did. But no, I think she could be the character everyone's talking about after Ant-Man and Wasp. Because technically, yes, it's Ant-Man and the Wasp, but it's the first Marvel film to have a female be the co-lead or lead in it. So yeah,
It should be called Wasp and the Ant-Man. You know?
Oh yeah, 100%. But I think she's gonna do great. So. Yeah, what do we want to talk about next? Because I've talked about, I think we talked about characters, talked about the ending, talked about some stuff. I have a lot.
Well, Taylor mentioned it in his overall beginning, but the fight scene with the big Falcon, I like the setup first that they're going there because it's just some old Stark, storage facility.
Yeah,
but
but
then,
really that's where the Avengers are trained.
Yeah, that's the place that was set up in Avengers number 2.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Two.
Number 2.
That's what they call it, Avengers number 2.
Number 2. Cut the check, Feige, and so I like the fight scene between him and Falcon, and you mentioned that quippy line there at the I guess when they first meet or whatever.
I mentioned that line.
That was definitely
I pointed at you.
It is pretty much just the Star-Lord line again, but it's done a bit differently, so I still appreciate it.
That's true, yeah.
You should know me, but it's different.
It's cool. I like seeing Falcon because he hasn't really been anywhere yet. He's kind of just had a couple little inklings of an intro, and then at the end of Avengers 2, when they have the whole new team together, he's standing there, or he glides in rather.
Such a weak team.
But
at that point, now it feels strong because we know them, but it's Falcon, Skywitch, Vision, not weak power. It's just really War Machine. It's
personality.
These are all these are all the fucking B-rate people. We got Captain Black.
Cap's trying to have a conversation with him we have no personality, dude. What am I gonna say?
Yeah.
But I love the at some point in the fight, Scott does the where he jumps up on him, grabs him with his legs, and flips him, throws him on the ground, and that's the trick that Hope showed him in their training montage. So I like that little throwback, if you will, and then it's kind of the intro of what happens in Civil War, where he gets inside of his suit and starts unplugging everything.
Yeah.
And obviously he does that to Iron Man in.
This is your conscience.
This is your conscience.
We don't talk much.
Exactly.
I do wonder though with that Avengers facility, I feel like it was a bit too easy for him to get there. And I know, once he's Ant-Man, he's small, that's fine. But once he goes in regular size, they don't even have a fucking gun cannon that Tony Stark's made on this building. It feels like it's pretty easy to get in this facility. So I'm just gonna shut that out. Which
I guess Falcon's always on the clock.
I guess we've talked about that too with Iron Man and Iron Man 3, right? He could have his house fucking decked out, and the stuff that he does have decked out and doesn't, it doesn't really make sense sometimes. But
You make a good point.
Just
I
throwing that
feel
out.
like Avengers facilities should be probably
top-notch security.
Probably. I mean, they likely have a lot of things that are important there.
Yeah.
Clearly, what is it that he goes there to steal again? It's some battery. Yikes.
Yeah. Yikes.
I don't actually remember what it was.
We let you all down, listeners. We let you all down.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's something to do with that. It's gonna help make them small and get him to do that heist.
Help make them
Exactly.
small.
Yep.
Just what we're looking for. What is there? There's a couple quotes I really like from Louis where
Louis.
I think that's what his name is.
That was Lewis.
I think it actually is Louis. I mean, you can look at IMDb. I think it's a matter of how you pronounce things. I'm pretty sure they do say Louis though.
Okay.
I'm about 94%.
No, Dylan's right. It's not gonna matter. I'll just say Louis.
Well, if it's Luis, then it's Louis as opposed to Louis, I think. if I know my.
I swear I heard people say Lewis though in the movie.
I wanted to mention it earlier, but I forgot. I love how Hank's reaction when like this is the squad of people. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're right, but I still think you're wrong.
Bam!
You can't prove that.
Suck on that. I love the scene of Hank when he first sees like the squad of guys that Scott's bringing in. He's like,
No,
what are these guys? And then
they're not your people.
and then Hope has the comment of like, you brought this guy in, like he got sent to jail for stealing a smoothie machine. He's like, 2 smoothie machines. So that was a fun line. The other one is when it's in that like ending scenario when they're breaking into the PIM facility at the end, and he's obviously Louis like he's kind of in there and he's punching dudes left and right and center, and he like knocks that one guy and he's like, oh, what is the line exactly? He's like popping off because he took this guy out, but then Hope like walks up and he like just casually kind of soothes back and he's like, oh man, this is a very serious situation. I don't know, I'm butchering it, but it was a really great line. Yeah.
Okay.
What else do we got? You got any more notes over there?
Oh yeah.
Go for it.
Just a fun one. So at the beginning of the movie when they have that scene with we're gonna ignore Hydra guy, Peggy, obviously Howard Stark, and then Hank Pym. You have Michael Douglas, who is older than all of them, who is playing younger than all of them, and then you have Peggy Carter, who is younger than all of them, who is playing the same age as John Slattery, but playing younger than, or playing older than Michael Douglas, who's actually older than her. So it's a really mindfuck when you really think about it.
That is.
Actors playing all these different like ages, and that's the weird thing with technology now, that you're up against an actor who's playing that they're older than you, and you're older than them, but you're playing that you're younger than them. Actors,
2018, my friends.
actors really gotta stretch that acting muscle now, no excuses. Just a quote from the Baskin Robbins boss when he just says, pull up some chair. I just like that.
He what, sorry?
It says pull up some chair. Get someone in the office, just like, I like it. When Scott sees the Falcon in that scene, he's like, it's the Falcon. Like he whisper yells it. Great.
Whisper yell.
Yeah. I feel like the Hydra coming back, or I said that wrong, but Hydra coming back felt very. I'm gonna say I don't know.
Unnecessary, perhaps?
Not even unnecessary, because I'm fine with them being always around, and I don't even know why I'm saying this, because they. Yeah, I guess I completely take it back. It was just in the scene, because in Avengers, obviously, they're still around. Like, Baron Strucker was Hydra, and they were experimenting on them, and, like, they're kind of part of Hydra. So, I guess I just wasn't expecting it for them to be like, oh, Hydra, they're back, and they're doing better than other things. But really, when I think about it, if I want them to be sprinkled throughout the universe, I guess that's how you do it. It's just, yeah, caught me off guard, I guess. I think... their kiss is great. When they kiss and, like, Hank opens the door and they're there, and then
He's like, how long has this been happening?
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I didn't do anything. She came on me. Like, she's crazy. Like, you gotta watch her and everything like that. And he's just like, you're full of shit. He's like, I know. And, like, such good comedy. And then, Stanley cameo with Lewis or Louis, whatever.
Oh, yeah, his story is the bartender.
Yeah, and Stanley's just like, he says that line, like, that was hot shit, yo. Like, he says something. They may give him a cool line to, like,
cool line. I don't remember the line was.
Yeah, and I guess we didn't talk about them. I like Scott's, like, little weird family, because it shows that in this generation, like, it's not the old school, like, oh, it's the man, the wife, and then, they have the kid, and that's it. Like, also, there's many different families, and I like that he's trying to, like, him and the new husband are trying to find a way to kind of be friendly towards each other, because they both care. And that's why I like that the dad's, the new husband's not your classic, like, scumbag guy. Yeah, he's a little douchebag, but he kind of has it right, because Scott's kind of a flake, right? He's just like, he seems like he does care about the wife and care about the daughter, and he said that, like, at the end when he's like, oh, I do this stuff because I care about her, and this time I did it for you, when he messed with the footage, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I like that. You could have easily just made him all, like, the asshole douchey guy who's just like, oh, of course she married this guy, but it's like, no, like, they do that a little at the beginning, but he kind of proves that, hey, like, I'm just looking out for these girls too. And I like that they're all just, the movie ends with them having dinner together, and they have the aunt, and R.I.P. to Anthony as well. So.
Anthony, yeah. Very emotional death scene.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they should have saved that for Infinity War, to really get the tears.
Thanos is...
Oh.
Yeah.
Just like squishing ants or something.
That's all the notes I have, gentlemen.
well, we can talk about the post-credit scene. I guess the first one is the Wasp suit. That's
Pretty
technically a
standard,
post-credit
pretty
scene.
Iron Man
We're
2.
gonna
And that's
talk
one
about-
thing, this movie is very Iron Man-ish, people have said that, and it is. I think it's a comedic, like, that's pretty much just War Machine over again, and, you know, like, it's a very tech-based sort of film, so I think that
Right.
it has differences, but that's clearly just War Machine 2.0 of, like, oh, next time, and, well, next time, baby, it's gonna be in the
Next
sequel.
time, baby.
But unfortunately, Iron Man 2 is not called Iron Man and the War Machine, so
No,
Don Shield missed
he got the short end of the stick on that one again, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then the other post-credit scene is the Civil War setup with
Mhm.
Bucky being all locked up in that.
literally
thing.
just a Civil War scene because that scene's verbatim in the movie. So
Right.
I think that was, I'd have to look back. I think that's when no, I guess they did do a while ago with the Thor hammer stuff. Remember when they first showed the hammer and they showed like all the truck around there? I think that was the first one, but I feel like recently now more we've been getting, I had to think about it, like more
Well, there's
scenes
the one
from a movie.
Doctor Strange scene, right, with the Thor
Yeah.
gear.
And I feel like that was, I'd have to really look at it, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just that. Maybe it's
There's
just...
not many.
Yeah, so
I
I
think
thought
I
it was a
like it.
trend, but I thought maybe, you know, if it's just that Doctor Strange,
It
I'm
just
trying to
seems-
think of anything
yeah.
else that was in a movie and then, but Travis is wrong.
Travis is wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's the scene where Falcon mentions that he knows a guy. That the guy that he knows is of course Ant-Man.
Yeah.
So you know, a nice little. I think that one's like a pretty good post-credit scene in terms of when this movie came out and like kind of foreshadowing what's to come.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's the only other like quick quote I wanted to say is when Scott shows his pals like the suit he has and he like goes Tiny right in front of him and they're like all freaking out. The one guy's like, "Oh my god, he's a gypsy." The other guy's like, "Well, that's some real David Copperfield shit right there." I love those interactions between those guys. They're just so goofy and and they're good fun to have around. I'm curious like how they'll be used in the second movie. I wonder if it'll be like pretty much the exact same.
I think the exact
Do you think
same.
do you think it'll be just Louis or are the other two guys going to be around as well?
I think they'll be back. I think they will. Marvel seems to, for the most part, unless your name is Red Skull, bring it back and keep you around.
Savage. Poor Red Skull.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I had on my list of things to talk about.
Yeah, Phil, anything else in your crow you want to talk about?
And your crow.
My crow.
Yeah.
Crowbar.
No, I think I got a good rating and an overall.
Well, you can hit us with that right now.
You know, I'm gonna give it a good 9.5.
Wow.
The only reason I'm not giving it a full 10 out of 10 is because I'm mad at myself I didn't see it in the theater.
No,
So-
That's a
not a
shitty
reason.
reason, man.
Come on. No, you
Okay.
can't.
How can you knock a movie because you decided to not go to the theater to see it?
Then you know what? I'll give it. I'll keep it a 9.5. The only thing is that I disliked about it is because with all the Hydra stuff, it kind of confused me at where it happens in the timeline.
With
Like,
all the Hydra stuff, it's one mention. He says, hey, these bars are from Hydra. They're doing great stuff now. They're trying to change their whole image. All the Hydra stuff, it's one scene, one line.
yeah, but is it happening after the events?
Yes.
After the events of Winter Soldier.
Yes.
See, that's what I don't like, how the Hydra's trying to stay so active though in this type of time zone. Because I feel like after being exposed,
I feel like
they
they're
should
try-
have been under the cover a lot more.
I feel like this is them being undercover. They're not stealing, they're not trying to get anything. They're subtly just buying this tech.
Your rating system is flawed.
Yeah.
Big time.
Suicide Squad.
You know, one more thing I forgot to mention is I like that so there's kind of like a time when Scott doesn't want to do this job. He doesn't want to be the Ant-Man. He's, I guess, scared of the repercussions, or he still like doesn't want to be a criminal. And I guess the line from Hank Pym that kind of changes it is that we're not doing it to save our lives, we're doing it to save theirs, referring to like their children. And I like that was kind of like the motivation change for him, or what switched him to want to do the job as well. Yeah, I think this is a good movie. It's a fun movie. Every time I watch it, I enjoy it. It's funny. It's got good action. It's got, like, honestly, I think, you know, talking about it on this cast really reinforced like how much character development there really is between your three main characters, and the way like the triangle between them is a lot of fun. And really, honestly, like watching this again gets me really excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp coming up this year. Like, I think it'll be a really fun movie. I'm curious to see how they push those characters forward even more, and just more action scenes in the realm of what this movie offered. And honestly, if there's a better villain and some better music, like Ant-Man 2 could be really, really like super standout.
Yeah, I didn't mention that. Yeah, score is super. I did.
There's nothing to mention.
It's just superhero score like 3. Like that's just what the whole movie is. It's like if they want to spruce this up and go the Thor Ragnarok Guardian, spruce it up. If they want to go the Guardians route and add some actual music, I'm fine. If that means like if they don't plan on changing the actual scoring, then yeah, it's. I remember when we saw the first, I was like, man, like. Nothing. And Marvel is getting better with score, so I hope that is something that does.
And they're getting better with villains, so
yeah, could be
generally.
Yeah. 7.5 out of 10 for me. I really enjoy it. There's some comedic stuff that is a little bit out there that I've accepted now, but most of it is with the villain. I think. Yeah, I think it's 7.5 because I do really enjoy this movie and I like it more and more. But at the end of the day, it's not a comic book movie that I absolutely love. It's just kind of like one of those hidden gems that I just really enjoy it. But there's not anything because I guess as the villain, the stakes are big, but I never feel that it doesn't emotionally get me. And it did this time because I have a daughter now. But in the sense of it never really fully hooks me, but I just enjoy the movie and have a really good time with it. It's just something about it. I don't know if it's even so much of a con. The villain to me is a big thing because he has a lot of screen time like we talked about, and he kind of takes me out of it when he's on screen. And I know that's a lot to knock it off like a whole 2 or 3.5, but like for me it's just the enjoyable level. And there's times where I am really enjoying it, but it is a little light and fluffy at times maybe, so that's
it's not as glamorous as the other Marvel movies.
No. So, but I still really enjoyed it. And it's still a good watch, and maybe one day I'll give it an 8. But right now, maybe I'm sticking with it. Maybe if I see it in the theaters again, I'll give it an 8. But right now, I'll stick with the 7.5. So, Taylor, where can they find us? Next week is our final episode for the with our Marvel ranking. So we're gonna be ranking a whole bunch of stuff for the retro. Then we'll take a little hiatus. But where could they find that?
Well, they can find us with your internet connection in the search bar on your Facebook. Go to Geekverse Space Podcast. Find all of our awesome links to all of our different sites and everything. Especially check out our website, geekversepodcast.com, because that has even more links to so many other sites. Travis?
You stole my website one that I usually plug, but that's okay.
Fudge.
But yes, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, please support us there. You see that subscribe button, don't just stare at it, click it,
smash
like
it,
share it, smash it, the whole shebang there. We thank you very much for tuning into this entire series. If you like what we're doing here, obviously there's not many left, there's one, but there's Spider-Man retros, and there's always gauntlets dropping on there. There's tons of stuff on Patreon.
If you like Saw, we did Saw Retrospective.
Yeah. But if you like what we did and you want some content earlier, at the $1 or $5 level, you get some stuff there. If not, do what I said before. Please help us and support us. That helps us create new shows like this. That helps us spread awareness. That helps us get better gear. All of that good stuff. So we thank you very much for tuning in to the Marvel Retrospective. Signing off for Ant-Man. Have a marvelous day, and we'll see you in the post-credits scene. Cut the check!
Wow, we actually nailed it on the last one. That's fantastic.
There's a lot of tension between all of us trying to do that.
Was there? I felt like in complete unison. I've never felt closer to you.
Now we gotta fight.
Really?
Well, I mean, I thought we were gonna do that anyway. I'm wrong.
But for our journey, Ant-Man, now what is going to play right now, I haven't decided this yet, but what's going to play, I think right now, is a quick thing of when we did review this movie.
The OG fans who have been around forever will remember that me and Travis did an Ant-Man review.
A 14-minute review that was placed randomly in the middle of the episode.
This is before we did like reviews as an episode. We just did a newscast.
We were young and had no experience, and you had to be gentle with us. But now, what we're going to do, we're going to throw that out.
And juiceless.
So if you want to listen to that, great. If not, I'll put the time code when you can skip ahead. But that's one to show...
I haven't listened to that in a while.
Yeah, that's one to show maybe how we feel differently about it now. And then 2, just because I feel like we were we almost didn't do Ant-Man, but I really wanted to do it because I feel like I had a lot more to say, and that was in the early cusp of us reviewing. You know, we hadn't found our style, which, you know, we're always still adapting our style, but I feel like we have a style and whatnot, so we're going to throw to that, and then we'll be right back. Now I gotta wait for 14 minutes.
No, really? Why would we wait for 14 minutes?
That's a fucking joke!
Oh, okay.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Marvel Retrospective. That was me and Dylan Musk from a good old 3 years ago. I think it was episode 2.
I hadn't hit puberty yet, so if my voice was a lot higher, then